Welcome to History News 5, where we are here today to report on reforming social evils. Take it away, Orla.
A great example of this was New Year's Eve, 1831, when Finney's disciple, Theodore Dwight Weld, delivered a 4-hour temperance lecture in Rochester.
What fun.
He described the awful fate of those who refused to stop drinking, urged people to stop themselves and others. The next day, the largest providers of whiskey rolled their barrels onto the sidewalks and smashed them.
Wow.
With drinking came poverty, illness, insanity, battered and broken families, and corrupt politics. The disagreements over goals and methods split the temperance movement into many separate organizations. During the Van Roon Depression, many out-of-work laborers who were concerned with practical concerns rather than religious concerns joined. Washington Temperance Society, enormously popular with unemployed young workers, the movement. It replaced revivalist techniques with new party politics by organizing parades, picnics, and melodramas to encourage people to take the pledge. The Temperance Society lobbied for local option laws, which allowed communities to prohibit the sale, manufacture, and consumption of alcohol. Maine,
Ooh.
and 15 other states followed after that. Drinking drastically decreased in the 1850s. Different religious groups benefited from that temperance. Protestants were able to exert some more control over laborers, immigrants, and Catholics. Perfectionists worked on their self-control. And women learned ways to control their abusive husbands, as well as young men who learned entertainment, fellowship, and contacts to help their careers through temperance.
On to our next very important topic of the century, health and sexuality.
Farmers attacked excessive eating and stimulants and too much sex. Many endorsed special diets and exercise programs. Sylvester Graham, fun fact, the inventor of the graham cracker, in 1834 delivered a series of lectures on chastity and later published as an advice book. Originally, asylums were prisons and almhouses where the sane and insane, children and hardened adults, criminals, were thrown together in terrible working conditions. In 1843, Dorothea Dix, a frail New Englander, recommended special asylums where the insane could be humanly and properly controlled by trained attendants. Idealistics believed that asylums could reform society's outcasts, but bad institutions corrupted good human beings. In 1853, Charles Loring Brace started a children's aid society in New York City. Prison reformers believed that a penitentiary with the right architectural design could bring a hardened criminal back to virtue. And now, on to our next topic.
From 1828 to 1832, workingmen's parties arose, where free tax-supported schools, free public lands in the West, and equal rights for poor, and the elimination of monopoly privilege were all really crucial goals that were supported by this group. And this sparked for a trade union to be created in Philadelphia in 1827, where 15 unions joined together to make another national trades union founded in 1834. These unions set up practical goals like shorter hours, wages that kept pace with rising prices, and getting off of cheap labor. Middle-class supporters called for the abolition of imprisonment for debt and militia duty. Union members struck 168 times between 1834 and 1836, which is a record high. And these strikes were all over wages and hours, since the working conditions were so poor back then. And the Boston Tradesmen, which was another group, struck because of a 10-hour workday. And our next pressing topic for the evening is anti-slavery and its tensions. Two prominent figures, Emily and Marius Robinson, arrived in Cincinnati to fight for abolition of slavery. But the Lane Seminary, which was a school to train abolitionists, was created. Later on, the Oberlin College was created, which was the first college that was open to men and women, blacks and whites, which became quite the accomplishment for the time, since it was not usual to have this much equality in such a educational location. In February 1831, William Lloyd Garrison published The Liberator. In 1863, Garrison established an anti-slavery in America group, which was heavily supported throughout the century by various different abolitionists, black and white, and this group protested against slavery.
The flood of abolitionism. So during this time, black and white abolitionists started to work a lot better together. And black and white stations cooperated on the Underground Railroad, passing fugitives from one hiding place to the next. The two races fought together to fight discrimination and slavery, And a great example of this was David Ruggles, who was dragged from a white car of a New Bedford, Massachusetts railway in 1841. Garrison Douglas and 40 other protesters organized the first successful integrated sit-in. They worked together harmoniously in the mid-1830s. Abolitionists were stoned, dragged through the streets, ousted from their jobs and homes, and reviled by northern mobs. Weld was known as the most mobbed man in the United States and could hardly finish a speech without disruption. And President Jackson believed abolitionists deserved to have their unconstitutional and wicked activities broken up by mobs.